Hey everyone, how's it going? How's week 2? You're about halfway through, coming up towards the end of week 2. Hopefully you've been getting your workouts in. I want to know about how your nutrition stuff has been going on. So hopefully you guys will get maybe some answers after I do a little bit of explanation. I did upload that document that has some basics about food and nutrition. And so hopefully you've had a chance to read it. If not, definitely get onto the TeamReach and look for that file that I uploaded. I started it off just with a brief little overview of what is food, what is it made up of. So we're going to look at the micronutrients and macronutrients. And the macronutrients, of course, is what everybody knows: protein, fat, carbohydrates. But before any other information, I do just want to remind everyone, Marcus and I and the rest of the iwikua team, none of us are registered dietitians, so we're not allowed to give you a meal plan or anything like that and tell you specifically what you can and can't eat. The point of this is really just to give you guys kind of some guidelines and ideas, and just kind of basic information so that you can make as good of choices as you can. So again, this is not meant to be a diet. The goal for this whole challenge is just to be able to create good habits that you can sustain in the long run, and ultimately that is when that's what's going to be able to get us healthy, is if we can just have good habits over time. So the middle section, we're going to talk about the kind of the goals of this part of the program. So we're coming up towards the end of week 2, so hopefully you've been working on your meals and things, planning it out ahead of time. And so I did want to remind you what Marcus was talking about if you were at our first meeting on last Sunday. And so what he talked about was the 3 P's. And so plan, prepare, and pack. So without those 3 things, you're setting yourself up to have a more difficult time. Not that you're going to fail, but you're just not going to be prepared ahead of time. So planning, you want to use your journal that we put in your book. Plan out what your meals are going to be, at least some ideas, whether that's like logging every single day of what exactly you're going to make, or if you're just going to do kind of that batch prep thing that we talked about, where you do all your proteins, all your veggies, and you can just kind of throw them together how you want. Whatever it is that you decide to do, you just want to plan it out. Write out what you need to get from the store, write out what you're going to cook, that kind of thing. So just think about it in advance. Then preparing is obviously getting the things that you need, maybe chopping up veggies and fruit to have for quick snacks. Maybe it's going ahead and cooking some of your proteins and veggies or your grains or whatever you need so that it's all ready to go. And then the 3rd P is pack. And so you want to bring a cooler with you, or pack your lunchbox or whatever to take with you if you can heat it up at work, or just pack it up into a container so you have it ready to go for lunch the next day. It's really easy if you just make extra of your dinner, just make a larger portion, and you put some of it away right away into another container, and that's ready to go for lunch the next day. So that's the 3 P's, and that's really good just to get ahead of it and have a plan, so you're not just making a last minute decision late at night after a long day of work and you don't want to have to deal with it. The other goal of this part of the program is just to make you guys a little bit more aware of how often are you eating, how much are you eating, are you eating because you're actually hungry, or is it just a habit, or you're bored? So just building some better habits as far as just awareness of your hunger cues and what are you actually consuming throughout the day. Not because we want to necessarily limit what you're eating or change it or change portions. Everyone is different on what their goals are. But the first step is just being aware of even where you're at. So that's the second part, is just kind of what is the purpose of this. And if you look at that diagram, you'll see when we looked at those 3 macronutrient categories, the fat, the proteins, and the carbohydrates, foods fall into multiple of those. Sometimes they're really obvious, like the bread, we all know it's carbs. Protein sources are going to be from all the different animal and plant sources. Fats, obviously we know what those are, but sometimes it's a little bit trickier when they cross into 2 categories or even sometimes into 3. So just being aware of that, even if you're not counting calories or anything, it's good to just kind of be aware of what is making up the plate that you're serving yourself. We did include a list of some different food items just to give you an idea, because of course there's always like a better choice and maybe a less good choice for every category. So for the proteins, you want to avoid things that are really high in fat or really processed, so maybe limiting how much bacon we're having or how much Spam. For the veggies, really any veggies is an unlimited portion. For any of your meals, you really can't overdo it. The more veggies, the better. When it comes to grains, definitely choosing things that are less refined, so maybe like a brown rice or some quinoa or different lentils and beans versus like a white rice or refined white bread, that kind of thing. For the fats, we want to think about the edible fats, so nuts and seeds, avocado, coconut, those things versus just oils and cooking oil. The one note for the fat section is for our salad dressings, to either choose a lighter dressing or just really think about your portion size for your dressing, because that one is really easy to overdo it, and it will add up a lot of really unnecessary calories. The fruit one, there are a lot of diets that limit how much fruit you can have or when you can eat them or which types of fruit you can have. We're not doing that in this plan. Fruit is fine, just thinking about it as an energy source, so maybe not eating a ton of fruit before bedtime because it's going to give you a ton of sugar. You're not going to use that energy before you go to bed, so it's not going to really do its job for you. But of course, if you're choosing fruit over some other type of dessert, that's the better choice. So it's a very individual about what it is that you're eating and when, but just being more conscious of your choices. The only things on here that we're trying to limit, if you're sticking to these recommendations, is dairy, which we know is really inflammatory, maybe the fried foods, things with added sugar, candies, sodas, sugary fruit drinks, and then limiting our alcohol and caffeine. So the last section down at the very bottom, those little diagrams of the hands, those will just show you kind of a rough estimate of what are the portion sizes for each different category. And I have another document that I'll share as well that has a little bit more detailed examples and measurements. But what this is telling you is for the protein, the size of your palm is about 1 serving of a protein. So if you think about a chicken breast or a piece of fish or whatever it is, a chunk of tofu, whether it's meat or not, that's about a protein serving size. Veggies, we're not limiting how much we are eating. Fruit, 1 portion is about 1 handful. Same thing for nuts and seeds. So 1 handful of trail mix is 1 portion. For the fats, that's the one that you definitely want to be watching more so than the others, because it does add up a lot of calories really quickly. 1 serving of oil, butter, dressing, that kind of thing is just the size of your thumb. So most of us are probably really overdoing that unless we're measuring out ahead of time. I will show the other document. I'll put it here and you guys can see some other ideas, but this plan was adapted from Whole30, and that's a program that's specifically meant for elimination protocol, basically. So what you do is you take out all of the things over the course of 30 days. You're not allowed to eat sugar, dairy, alcohol, processed carbohydrates, anything like that. So there's a whole list of things that you're not allowed to eat, and those are the most common things that cause like digestion problems, skin problems, energy issues, hormone imbalances, all kinds of things. So by eliminating them all, you can kind of get down to the basics of just whole foods. And then at the end of the 30 days, you slowly introduce 1 item back in at a time. So the first few days, you try and add sugary stuff back in, and then you can kind of see, how is this affecting my body? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, and then you can choose whether you continue to eat it or you just continue to leave it out of your diet. And you go through the list and you'll just have better awareness of how do these things make me feel, and maybe they don't bother me at all. The gluten, the dairies, that kind of stuff. So those are really common things that people will have sensitivities to, and if you're just eating all of them all the time, you wouldn't really know which ones are triggering reactions for you. So that's what this meal kind of program is based off of. But like we said, everyone is really individual. If you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Marcus. You can message us directly. We would love if you guys put comments in here for everyone else to maybe have the same questions answered. So yeah, just open up the conversation for you guys. I would love to know about how the meal prepping and stuff has been going so far. We're coming up towards the end of the second week, but as this challenge goes through, we're kind of stacking each little mini challenge and goal from one to the next. So we're going to continue with our workouts and with our nutrition as we go into 3 all the way to the end of week 6. So let us know what questions you guys have, and hopefully it's going really well. And I love seeing you guys at the gym working out. It's been really fun. So let us know how it's going and how we can help.